So we did find out, in fact, that this was the nun. We got her name. We were able to speak to her a little bit, and then the university brought us back a couple of years ago to actually help cross her over, and we were able to do that. So that was pretty cool. That was really cool. Here is my information. Everything but MySpace works. I don't think MySpace exists anymore, but that's okay. Best ways to get in touch with me. Everything that I do really, though, goes off of my website, chrismoonpsychic.com. You can pretty much find out anywhere we're going to be, what we're going to be doing. That's the best place to go. I know we're up against the clock, but do you guys have any questions for us?
Can you tell if it's a good energy or bad? Like, if it's a good, like, where you're going to get scratches, or if it's...
Yeah, we have a lot of advantages with the Ghost Box to be able to speak to them and get them to come through. We're not really walking in the dark alley anymore that we used to, because our guides and technicians will actually tell us what we're looking at, talking to, and things along those lines. So that's usually the best way for us. And then on the psychic sense, you can usually pick up on something negative. And it's the same thing as if you walk into a room and you know good people and you know people who have that attitude. It's that same kind of vibe. Absolutely.
I have a
Yes.
question. How do you know those little things weren't dust? Those little round things in the picture?
Yeah, what you need to do is, if you ever want to know the difference between false positives versus spirit energy, if you take it into a photo editing program and you polarize it, so you reverse it, if it looks like it has sharp edges and it almost looks like a snowflake, that's a false positive. If it looks like a human cell under a microscope, that's spirit energy. It's very simple.
Oh, it doesn't sound so, because I don't know how to even do what you just said to do. So
Yeah, it's just photo editing.
okay,
Well,
yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
And
But
also the face of the individuals in every orb. So if you blow it up on a high resolution computer screen, you actually see their face if it's an actual orb versus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll project out their
We'll
faces.
prove that tonight.
Yeah, Chuck's got some great evidence with that.
so, do you see spirits right now?
Oh, I can see spirits on a consistent basis. When you're a medium, what you have to do is really direct your energy more than anything else. Like right now, I'm completely focused on the presentation, but I will see things out of the corner of my eye. If I stop and direct my energy, I can actually speak to them, hear them, describe them, things along those lines.
And you know, in your belief, those are human beings that actually used to live.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
How? I just
When they come through and they speak to their loved ones in their own voice and identify things that have taken place during that time and give messages of love,
what about Christians that say those are demons fooling you?
they're the best demons I've ever heard. They're amazing
Yeah.
demons because when they come through, and that's what I love is there's belief paths that come into this, and the narrow view is really tough to deal with, because I've had people come up to me, especially in the South. That's something that we get on a consistent basis. And they say, "You're just talking to demons. You're just doing this. You're just doing that." And I tell them these are the best demons I've ever dealt with, because they pass on all these amazing messages and how their family's with them and watching over them and taking care of them and sending love and recording their voices so other family members can hear it. It's there's no demonic activity with what we do.
And how much
I always do private sessions with Chris whenever I can, and one time, the very first time, I tried to ask a test question, and my father got upset that I was trying to test him. So I tell people, for private sessions, don't waste your time. But I was down in Texas, Galveston, Texas, and I was talking about a boyfriend I had that had left me, and he had had a stroke and all of that. He'd had a stroke and he OD'd, actually, but he lived. And my grandmother's voice came through and said 6 pills. I had never told Chris that he'd taken 6 pills, that's what did him in. I knew right then, okay, that's it. I wasn't thinking about it, it wasn't anything. She just said, we were talking about him, and she said 6 pills. It was 6 Xanax. So I knew right then I didn't have to ask any test questions.
Yeah,
I
and
knew
that's,
the
that's
answer.
usually the way that the sessions work. We go in and we just let them communicate back and forth. I mean, and that's the thing.
So do you believe in reincarnation?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
Do you think that we come back as animals, or people come back as people?
The majority of the time, you'll see that people come back as people.
So there are some times that they don't.
There's examples.
It's their choice, really, isn't
And
it?
I mean, you're talking about, we're going to get pretty deep into this. I mean, we're in a basic class, but I can tell you that there's soul circles, there's well development, there's all sorts of things that happen on string theory. where basically we're talking about spirits living in different dimensions, different
Yes.
times, but being tied to each other throughout each existence, through each dimension.
So they're not bound by space-time continuum.
Never. So basically, the spirits that you deal with are in every lifetime, whether they're on the other side or whether they're with you, and they play different roles every single time. We're essentially trying to learn lessons in this lifetime. This
Yeah.
is school where we are right now.
Yes.
So we spend our time on the other side planning. It's lesson planning, and we decide roles, deaths, learning all sorts of different things before we come back and have that conscious amnesia that takes place. So, long story short, absolutely.
I have a
Yes.
question.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, was somebody?
We'll come back.
Okay. In your experience, do you find that you had mentioned earlier that activity starts out slowly and then can gradually increase?
Right.
Does it ever plateau, or does it just continue?
Depends on the situation. We've seen a lot of different examples over time. Some things that start out very mild and they stay that way. Other times, when you're dealing with more negative energy, it will escalate to the point that it's unlivable. And that's usually when they call us in, is to the point where it's become a real problem.
And is that usually negative?
When
Or
that,
can it
when that
also-
takes place, yeah. The only other example that I've ever run into in regards to that is if somebody is so desperate to get through that they have to pass on a message, that it'll come across as negative, but it's really not. It's just their frustration that's being
So
shown.
it can just be someone trying.
Right. The majority of the activity we deal with when it comes to hauntings just has to do with human spirits trying to communicate, or if we're dealing with somebody in the earthbound state, you're disturbing their space in a way, and they're not sure what's happening. It's almost like causing confusion in their nightmare. So that's why we see that activity increase.
Is that a phone?
So if they're not bound by space-time continuum, then maybe like the spirits that we're talking here tonight, why couldn't I talk to those same spirits then at my house?
You can. You
I
absolutely
can.
Now, if you're talking, again, we have to break down the difference between, you have to talk about earthbound spirit versus intelligent spirit. Intelligent spirit, there is no bounds, zero.
So
Time,
that's what I'm
space.
talking about. Intelligent,
The
yes.
intelligent spirits have no.
So I wouldn't really have to even come to this house
Oh, no.
to have a conversation with an intelligent spirit. I could do it right where I live at my house.
At any location, and it doesn't have to be at night. You don't have to do it at nighttime. I get my best communication.
Do I have to have a spirit box for it, or could I use
No, you can just communicate. Absolutely. Use
Okay.
a digital recorder.
digital? Okay.
Or a tape recorder, or a real recorder.
Okay.
They'll communicate any way you ask them to.
Right.
Okay.
As long as you're respectful and you explain what you're doing and give them enough time to answer the questions in between. You want to leave about 10 seconds so that they have time to actually imprint their voice on the device.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a dog trainer, so that's what I tell people with dogs. Give them time to think. Quit
Right.
saying sit, 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 sit.
That's it. Exactly.
Same
You have to
thing.
give them that time.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I don't know, 10 years ago, we had a private session with you, and we were trying to contact somebody, and we both heard total different voice. I mean, we knew the voice, total different. When it happens,
It's almost like, it's the closest thing, and I hate to say it, but it's the closest thing to a religious experience that you can have. When you hear that voice come through, it's, there's nothing like it. We don't contact our loved ones, we don't contact our people, so when you guys have that experience, that's really the reward for us, is when that emotion happens. Because you have to think about it, you lose that person, you think that's the last time I'm gonna hear that voice until I pass over, and then all of a sudden this machine brings through the voice of that person. It's almost impossible to fathom how it works, even for us.
So are any spirits then like constrained by space-time continuum? Say my dad died. And I'm like, all right, Dad, now I'm at my house, so come visit me, but he won't. I can't hear him. Nothing happens. Is it because for something he can't?
It would just be the earthbound state, making a choice not to cross over. If they don't cross through, if they don't move over into the next realm, to the next dimension, they can't communicate the way that they'd like to. And they are bound at that point, but it's because they've chosen to be bound in that space.
But would you say that he crossed over when he was on his deathbed and he's going, Grandpa Moses? So somebody's there to get him. Boom, he passes away. I see a green orb leave his body in a split second.
Yeah,
Would that be a crossover?
more than likely, but he would still have to make the decision to cross through the light. That's the thing. We all leave the body. We might see our family and friends waiting for us, but we have to make the conscious decision to move through that gate.
Okay.
Right.
Very important.
So my best friend feels things and hears things, but it scares her. So would you recommend she comes to something like this?
Yeah, most mediums that you run into are what I call reluctant mediums, because we have the ability, but at a very young age, we start being tormented by the spirits, not because they're trying to torment us, but because they see a light around us and they think that they can communicate. So the only goal that they have is that communication, and for children, it's terrifying, it's horrific. You're seeing them in the form that, and how they passed, you're seeing them come to you with desperation, not being able to breathe, all sorts of different things, and a lot of people who have that ability to shut it off because they can't deal with the reality of what's happening.
Cause I like try to push her and she's always
Yeah.
like, no.
I wouldn't push her.
I had a roommate just like that. She
Like, I
refused to
want her
touch.
Come to something like this, and she's like, no, I'd be scared.
Right.
Or-
If she's ready, when she's ready, yeah, I would encourage her to come, because we spend a lot of our time trying to help
Yes.
guide them in the right direction. There's ways you can either enhance it, there's also ways that you can kind of pull back from it a little bit too, so I definitely encourage that. Yes, in the back.
Have you ever had an experience, or is it possible that you came